So thank you, everybody. My name is Victor Natera. I am the Edu-Reach coach for Collegiate Edu-Nation. We want to welcome everyone to this exciting session as part of the National Apprenticeship Week of 2024. I am thrilled to be your host today for this discussion. This week is all about celebrating the incredible opportunities students have for apprenticeships and internships that we can bridge through education and workforce, creating pathways, professional networking, and of course, economic growth. So today we're privileged to have an esteemed member of the Palo Alto Community College, part of the Alamo Colleges District, an instructor um, who has a wealth of knowledge in and dedication in developing the next generation of skilled professionals in the veterinary technology setting. So I will allow you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit why you chose this area of study and anything else you want to let us know, like fun facts, like where'd you go to school and just
Sure. Okay. My name is Jennifer Murray. I am an LVT who is one of the instructors at the Palo Alto Veterinary Technology Program here on the south side of San Antonio as part of the Alamo Colleges District. I started out working in veterinary medicine in 1994. I originally wanted to become a veterinarian. That's what I grew up doing. I tried to save animals even as a little kid. I took care of animals, and that's all I ever wanted to do. When I was in college the first time around, I was kind of delayed as far as life sort of got in the way. I never applied to veterinary school. Um, until 1999, but that was another story. But I did. It took me 7.5 years to get my bachelor's degree. During that time, I was working in veterinary hospitals, at least at the time, and I believe now veterinary schools require you to have in-clinic experience. So I got a job cleaning kennels at the hospital close to where I lived in Austin, Texas, and just started working and realized that this is definitely was my calling, was working with the animals. Despite the fact that I didn't get into veterinary school, and then ended up married and with kids and never even reapplied, I continued to work in veterinary hospitals because I had the skills and the experience to continue to get hired working with them. I did that for 25 years. I went as far as you can possibly go without the education behind you as a licensed veterinary technician, until about 2016, when I started to decide what I wanted to do. My kids were starting to be in high school and moving on, and I was still stuck doing the same thing I had been doing for 20 years. And the fact is, even though you can get a job and work in a clinic in Texas, you can do a lot of the same things without that license. You're limited for how far you can go and how much supervision you can take on. You you kind of have to, every time you get a new job, you have to start over, proving who you are and what you know. And I was tired of doing that, and had committed to the fact that I wasn't going to go to vet school as I was pushing 50 years old. I went ahead and went back to get my associate's degree and get my license. And I don't regret a minute of it, even though I was by far the oldest student here. It made me a better mentor for my fellow students, and a good relationship with the teachers. I graduated from this program right here in 2022. And because of my professional relationship with my instructors, they hired me to be an instructor right out of graduation. So I have never left. Yeah, I mean, I'm living what the difference is of what you can do with the degree versus without the degree. I am able to introduce myself with those three little letters, and already they know, based on my age, my experience, and my licensure, exactly who I am and how much I know. And it's been a world of difference in my career. And I encourage everyone to start with the degree, so that your trajectory is unlimited. If you start with the degree, you can move on to specialize, and some of the industry standards are going to be opening up to you right off the bat rather than having to wait and come back. Hopefully
yeah,
that.
No, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I mean, you brought up so many great points. You know, this is really important to know and to hear because some students don't realize the type of training or the education behind some of these uh, programs, especially within veterinary medicine, if you want to pursue that at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
What steps are needed and what type of training? So which brings me to my next question with you is I'll start off first kind of with like the industry certs and licenses, if any, and then
Sure.
we'll go into like academics. But what industry certifications or licenses can someone earn through this program, and how do you or how do they help in securing a job after graduation?
So we do offer a certified veterinary assistant. It's built into our program. After 1 year completed in good standing, you can be awarded a certificate of veterinary assistance. It's a level 2 certificate. It's kind of a college built certification. The certification of veterinary assistance is sort of, it's not as organized as it is in human medicine. It's not, there's no oversight, there's no license associated with it. It's kind of a blip on your resume that might help you get a job or it might not. It may not give you an edge any more than if somebody just has a couple years of experience. Um, but we do offer it in case somebody gets through to 1 year and then has to move or can't finish their degree for some reason. We want them to have some sort of certification to show for having finished a year of our cohorted program. We also do recover CPR certification, which is learning basically life-saving CPCR for dogs and cats. It's both an online, and we're instituting an in-person course this following this hopefully this next spring as a second part to that, which is a very recognized certification within the emergency and critical care end of veterinary medicine, and does have value to already have that certification. And also fear-free certification, which is pretty well known, is very well known within the industry and pretty well known outside of the industry too. People like the phrase fear-free. It's an approach to animal handling with an emphasis on recognizing behaviors in dogs and cats that are stemming from fear and anxiety rather than them just being bad animals. Fear-free certification doesn't recognize bad animals, they recognize fearful animals and how to approach and deal with them in a way to minimize their fear and in fact help retrain some of the behavior out of them through the use of handling and medication to help them have a better experience at the hospitals. And we teach that both for small animal, large animal, for equine and cattle, and also for avian fear-free certification, which are definitely industry recognized certifications.
Perfect. That's great. That is all very well implemented so that students are aware of what industry or what area or niche they want to go in within this program. So, and then also depending on where you live, I'm sure that also plays or ties into uh, what you want to pursue, I'm sure.
Sure.
So talking about that, talking about the certifications and the licenses, what can you kind of just go into some information about what type of courses
Sure.
they need to complete, and then how long will it take for a cert and or an associate's?
Sure. We have a 5 semester or 2 year cohorted program. So, what that means is every vet tech course you take is a prerequisite for the one that comes after it. So, each semester is set in the courses you're going to take. We do have the opportunity, if you do fail one of the classes, you are not able to move on with your cohort, but you do have the opportunity to reapply and come in with the next year's cohort to pick up where you left off. There's additional hours you have to do in clinic, you have to basically get a job and work an extra number of hours in clinic so that you can get some more experience hands-on and working in the industry, so you can kind of do some self-reflection and figure out where you might have fallen behind. So that, and usually people who come back end up passing and moving on. So we're pretty happy with that, how it's set up. We do have, we start off with anatomy, and I have my, I'll just read it here. The first semester is pretty heavy in math and science. I'm not going to lie. People are not aware of how heavily this is a medical field and this is a medical program. So you have to have a pretty strong background in math. You can make it work. We will teach you the math you need. You don't need to know calculus, but you do need to know medical algebra. So we have to be able to do quick calculations, but it's a very set series of calculations that we need to be very familiar with. And we will teach that the very first semester and continue to reinforce it throughout the 2 years. The first year includes anatomy, intro to veterinary technology, where you teach you behavior, recognizing behavioral clues, animal handling, restraint, and even we start with venipuncture, blood draws on dogs and cats in that very first semester. Um, and then medical terminology. That's something everybody needs to learn in any kind of medical program. So you can have a conversation with doctors and be able to read medical textbooks and journals and understand what you're reading and medical records. And when we move on from there, we start moving it up to learning about um, common diseases in small animals. The second semester, we start introducing anesthesia and managing animals, inducing and maintaining anesthesia, as well as wound management, that sort of thing. We expand your medical knowledge the second semester. And then the summer in between the first and the second year, if you choose to go on. If you don't, if you stop there, you will be granted the certified veterinary assistant certificate that I talked about. But if you go on, we have a 320-hour externship that happens the summer in between. We help you build a resume. We help kind of line you up with a area partner that we think you would be a good match at, and then have you call and apply with your resume and interview with them for this externship. So it's not something we just stick you, then you actually go out and earn that externship spot too, with them expecting it from us as partners. That is a practicum. It requires daily journals and weekly reports to be turned into the teacher, and then a case study and presentation happens in the end of the summer about one of the cases that you saw that you really stuck with you, and we have you present that to your other students. We also teach veterinary pharmacology that same summer, so there's a class and an externship happening at the same time, where we teach you about all the drugs that are used and why in veterinary medicine. And then the second year we move into surgery, and we also, that's where we put our electives in. I call them electives because it's not the main line of what we're teaching, is really focused on small animal medicine, but it's not, and you can't elect not to take it. So that's not exactly a word. It's just the right word. It's just a less focus. We teach exotics and equine medicine the second year. And then we also do food animal, large animal, farm animal, um, cows and chickens and goats and pigs, um, that culminate with the trip to the rodeo and the stock show. We teach radiology the second year, veterinary nutrition. I think that's kind of a hot button topic, in at least online, as people liking to create their own recipes for dogs and cats to feed them these various popular diets. And so we do a pretty heavy duty course on why we feed what we do to our animals, both small and large animal, and figure out the nutritional requirements of each species and where those diets are coming up with and where they're falling short for the animals. And then oh, and lab animal, that's another one. Another, the last semester, we have a course focused on lab animal and research, which is not something a lot of people are aware of, is a career that you can pursue with this degree, as well as going into biomedical research, and not just managing the animals, but also managing the data and actually running the studies alongside veterinarians for human medical research.
Well, that's a great. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. I'm glad you kind of hit on the externships, because that was going to be one of my questions too. Um, And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's different facets to these programs that you can go into. A lot of people don't realize that you can go into the research side of it.
Mhm.
There's more of a scientific area where, if you want to go further later on as a DVM, I'm sure that that would also benefit the student. Um, and then, of course, there's also the business side of it too. So I'm sure some students who are thinking ahead and they are planning on going to veterinary school, they also want to own their own practice one day
Mhm.
or work in a group practice and then maybe also learn the management side of that as well.
Mhm.
I'm sure you guys get that question too. Um, so with the next question, you hit on the externships. Now, do do any students while do they complete any is there an internship process or is it just solely just the externship that you focus on or can they also if they want to while they're completing um get like an internship at a local veterinary hospital or clinic?
So there's no formal internships besides the ones that we have built into our classes. There's the summer long externship. We do have assigned like 4 week rotation. It's not a formal internship, but it's where they go to learn surgery specifically within the surgery class. So we
Nice.
have some built in like that where they're going to be going to area clinics either as a group or as individuals to work as interns. They're not employed at that point. They're there as a student intern. It's just not a formalized internship. It's just part of a rotation. It's somewhere between an internship and a field trip.
Nice.
Um, we do have that. And I will tell you that I guess most of the area hospitals in San Antonio recognize us based on reputation, and they're looking to work with us to house interns. So we are never short on hospitals that want to partner with us for either externs or intern rotations. We kind of have our pick of the litter. We definitely encourage our students to make an impression with these hospitals and do the best that they are capable of doing, sell themselves. And most of our graduates have already been granted one, if not more than one, job offers through their exposure through these even the 1 day internships.
That's
That's how
great.
much they want to hire our graduates. They'll get that offer in as early as they can if they are impressed, even after a single shift with these students. So it's job security to finish our program in the San Antonio and the surrounding area. This goes as far as Floresville too, and Pleasanton. We work with hospitals in all the outlying areas too, upwards towards Boerne and Braunfels,
That's
um,
great.
San Marcos even. So
Great. No, that is so good. I got to tour your facilities a while back, and I was shocked that I was able to see um, not like major surgery, but I believe it uh, was it? Oh my gosh, it was with a canine, but I saw through the viewing window and what the students were doing and how the instructor or vet was like performing the surgery. So it was really great.
mhm.
I was really surprised that Palo Alto has such a really great facility for students like that. So that's really great. And I encourage students too, any student who's interested and wants to pursue and wants to get in, they should tour the facility, tour the school, and get in
Yep.
contact with the admissions office as well or campus activities.
We actually have a formal information session that we do about every other Friday throughout the fall and the spring semester. If you
Awesome.
go to our website, the best way to find it is just to Google Palo Alto Veterinary Technology Program. They'll bring you right to our webpage. And it tells you all about the statistics for finding a job as an LVT and what's great about being an LVT on the website. It's a great resource. And then all the way at the bottom of the page, there's a bunch of tabs, including a list of all the scheduled information sessions. And that's what we usually do because we have classes all the time. We can't just have, we can't do a tour at any time, but we do
Right.
have these scheduled tours every other Friday, and some off days. I think the last one this semester is on a Wednesday because then Palo Alto closes for
Right.
the for the
For the
holiday. But we do an hour and a half long lecture. It's myself or one of my other recruiter colleagues who are do the lecture about everything Palo Alto. And then we have our second year students actually do these tours around the school because we don't actually have classes happening on Friday. It's just
Mhm.
tutoring and background studying happening. So there's room to do it in large groups without disruption and answer individual questions too. Certainly, we can answer questions through our PAC Vet Tech email to at any time. That comes straight to us if you have any questions about that that email is also on the website. So to
Okay.
even just ask recruiting questions.
Sure. Perfect. Well, no, thank you for that plug too. The information session is going to be very helpful for anyone that is interested.
Mhm.
You can also go to alamo.edu and choose Palo Alto College, and then there's a list of programs, and I'm pretty sure you'll
Yeah.
also be able to find the information session as well. This is really great. I went to a 4-year small university in West Texas that emphasized in wildlife management, range and wildlife, animal science, and equine science.
Mhm.
And one of the most interesting things that I found was one of the veterinarians in the local area was also an instructor, and they had donated to Sul Ross State they donated small miniature ponies. And the most interesting thing I found out about that was that they were easier to handle because they have the same anatomy and physiology as a life-size horse. And so that's so amazing. And um, in addition to that, the reason being that I mentioned that is that students have a wealth of connections and knowledge, at their fingertips, and they can research all of this as well. Um, so with that being said, I just kind of wanted to ask you too, um, are you finding more students going into um, like certification, or are they having any issues with like their academics? Is why they're not following through with a further hiring like a bachelor's degree or even going into vet school? Can you kind of go into that? Is it because it's the difficulty? Is it money?
There, there's not a lot of bachelor's programs for veterinary technology, nor is there a differentiation on designation for licensure. So it's kind of in its infancy right now. The career, excuse me, the industry is expanding and growing because there's not enough veterinarians, and there is not enough licensed veterinary technicians or any assistants. I mean, there's short staffing at every hospital you go at. They are, I guarantee, short staffed and would hire you in a minute if you had a degree and or experience. It's very easy to find a job as an experienced technician right now. However, so there is A&M Kingsville, and I believe A&M and M and College Station has just gotten a grant to start exploring adding a veterinary technology bachelor's degree. There was one at Tarleton, but I know they closed their program, and that's happening more often than not. Is they're starting to lose veterinary technology programs. Even the associate's degrees are starting to shut down. So it's becoming more competitive at the ones that are remaining and being kept open. Um, I guess it's the lack of title protection and scope of practice designation in Texas specifically that's kind of keeping it from really ballooning as far as education goes.
Mhm.
You don't need the license to do most of the things we do. It helps you get a job, and again, gives you a foot in the door already if you have the degree. And as far as the trust the doctor is willing to grant you, especially in San Antonio, they know our program, but the state of Texas doesn't really recognize it. There's about 31 other states right now that do have title protection and scope of practice and restrict what you can actually do skills wise within a practice.
Okay.
If you are not a veterinarian or a licensed technician, you cannot put in a catheter or even draw blood in some states. That is probably coming to Texas. It's going to be kind of in the hands of the veterinarians who run the the legislature about how much they're willing to restrict it. So it's kind of between, a hiring crunch. Can we not hire people? Do we have enough licensed technicians? The more we have, the more power we will have as far as unionization and advocating for ourselves with our own political goals.
Right.
I do know there are quite a few LVTs who go on to become veterinarians. They have to still get all the prerequisites for veterinary school. This is not a track for veterinary school. I want to emphasize that. It's the difference between becoming an RN or becoming a medical doctor. You
Right.
either go to become a nurse or you go become to a doctor. If you have the grades and the money and the intention to become a doctor, then that's definitely the way you want to just go to the 4-year university and get you most veterinary schools require most of a degree. They don't necessarily require the bachelor's degree, but the prerequisites add up to almost the bachelor's degree, if that makes sense. And they're going
Yes.
to require things. They're going to require calculus. They're going to require uh, medical writing. I'm trying to think of all the prerequisites I took. I had biochemistry, organic chemistry, all the things that you would
Yes.
need for a biology or a chemistry degree, or what you're going to need to get into veterinary school. So it's going to be harder to get into veterinary school. We have for this program 4 college level prerequisites because it's just an associate's degree. So for a cost factor, you can do it for less than $15,000 and come out with a degree and a job ready to hire you. So if you don't have all the money, but you do have the desire, it's a longer path, but you
Mhm.
can work as an LVT. That's going to help you get into veterinary school and continue on with the rest of your prerequisites after getting this degree. So it just depends on what life grants you as far as which pathway you're going to go on. They both have value, and they both, yeah, they both are in high demand.
That's great. No, you brought on some really great points. You you hit it on the dot when you said it's not this isn't like a lead-in degree into the veterinary medicine program because
Correct.
it's much more extensive, more rigorous. Um, so yes, thank you for that. I also kind of wanted just to mention that for those of you who are interested, you would have to still, this is a community college, so you would apply through, you can apply on their website as well. And then you can also apply
Apply
the general
Texas.
apply
Yeah.
Texas,
Yeah.
right, applytexas.org. Thank you. That's right. And so, and they offer scholarships, they offer financial aid. And so just for those of you who are thinking about that, that also is found online as well. If you're in your high school, you can also talk to your counselor and they can also, give you additional information. Before we complete this interview, I do want to ask one thing that we're getting a lot of questions about is when someone does get into this industry and or they have, let's say they have the highest, the license, they're licensed. And what would you say what is like the starting salary for someone that is licensed?
So we actually did a survey from it's not a huge survey. We did a survey from our recent graduates the last 3 years, and came up with the average being about $21 an hour, starting right out the door with your degree in your hand. That's before even getting your license. Usually the national test takes place a few months after graduation, and then a couple, maybe 6 weeks to a month, 2 months after that, you take the state licensure, which usually gives you a bump up. Most places will give you another raise with each step of that certification and application and licensure acquiring. So just with the degree, people are being hired at over $20 an hour in the San Antonio area. And that's definitely spreading out into the surrounding areas as well as there's more competition. There's a lot of corporations taking over veterinary medicine across the nation. That's happening, but there's a lot of conglomeration coming together, and you know corporations give you buying power that you don't have as a small mom and pop sole proprietor, right?
Right.
So it's happening in every industry. But what one of the side effects that is happening in veterinary medicine, you say what you will about the corporatization, it's doing wonders for our role as LVTs within the practice because the corporations give us value as mid-level managers, so and sub-level supervision over other staff members. So and they're even using us in exam rooms to help bring income to the practices, talking about heartworm prevention and puppy vaccines and the value of puppy education, husbandry, whatever. When they're using us for what our education has granted us is the ability to educate clients. So they're kind of driving up prices in the last 5 to 10 years. They're driving up our value as hiring power. So
Great.
that's great. I mean, there I can't emphasize enough. There's no way to not get a job unless you really burn all your bridges somehow along the way. And then even if you did that, all you'd have to do is move to another city, and they would still see your degree and the school you went to, and probably hire you.
Right. No, yeah, that's great. I mean, industry being part of a big corporation is can be helpful too. There's pros and cons to
Yeah,
everything, but yeah,
exactly.
they've got the financial backing and
Right.
there's potential possibly for, for you to get further education and then them possibly paying for it or reimbursement. And so there's a lot of good,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And the corporations allow growth that doesn't necessarily happen in a sole veterinarian practice either, because you can move up in the corporate chain. I have a friend who is now the head of nursing at Mars,
Oh,
uh, like for the Blue
nice.
Pearl for their emergency and critical care specialty center. She's the head of all nursing nationally, and she started as an RVT.
Wow, nice. Yeah, so there's a lot of potential to this. There's a lot of potential and there's a lot of really great opportunities that you can pursue with the certification, licensing, depending on the field that your niche, working with small animals or
Mhm.
large animals and whatnot. So that's great.
And the
Well,
education doesn't necessarily stop there either. I mean, we have specialty certifications that you can pursue. That's not done within the schools, it's
mhm,
done within the industry. So if you do go work for an equine provider, you can become an equine specialist called a VTS, a veterinary technician specialist, that gives you even more buying power and education for those folks go on to end up doing national CE conferences and webinars, and they become like nationwide educators and
okay.
educating other technicians and doctors because of their specialty. So
Continuing education you're talking about after.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay. Great.
there's further certifications you can pursue to specialize in whatever floats your boat after you graduate.
That's great. That's really great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today and talk about your really wonderful program that you have there at Palo Alto College here in San Antonio.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
and so I will, is it okay if we provide an email for somebody that has questions for you, or would you want to drop it in the chat, just like a general
Sure,
email?
I'll give you the recruiting email. That's going to
Okay.
be, let's see here. Let me open this picture up a little bit more.
Yeah, that'll be great just in case somebody has any questions or if it's just you know, um any type of general questions, I would assume that.
That's yes. I mean, you've got my email. This one, and that would be okay too. But this is the one that multiple people check.
Perfect.
So there might be a response faster for generalized questions.
Absolutely. No,
Let me
yes.
just make sure I got. Uh, I think I spelled it right. Okay, I'll send it.
Awesome. Perfect. So it's pack-vettech at alamo.edu.
Mhm.
Perfect.
And if you go to our website that we described earlier, that's written all over that website too, because that's how you RSVP to the information sessions. And if you have any other questions, that email is the one that we respond to globally. So
Perfect. Well, Jennifer, thank you again so much for taking the time to meet with us and to go over the Vet Tech program and the steps
Sure.
into getting in and what students um, will what their future is going to look like. So I again thank you for taking time from your busy schedule, and we hope to hear from you soon. And again, thank you again. The email is there in the chat if anybody wants to get in contact with Ms. Murray about any questions for vet tech. Um, Not for admissions, but you can talk to admissions. I mean, she might answer, but I think just keep these questions to the program itself. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.